Right, what's happening, people, and welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. Now, at the end of this video, please do me a massive favour, and if you like the content, please subscribe. I had a look on the analytics page earlier, and I think it was only about 15% of you that watch these videos are actually subscribed. And I know from the average view duration that a lot of you are watching this all the way through. So please, I know you might not think it's important, and YouTube is going to recommend you my video anyway, but it massively, massively helps the channel grow. It helps me bang out more content for you to watch. So if you like the content coming from myself, please subscribe, and also while you're there, hit the bell so that you get notified on your YouTube every time one of my videos goes live. Now, the news broke on Thursday that Chelsea were potentially going to be selling Lewis Hall to Newcastle United, and today on Friday, as we record, it has now been confirmed. It's going to be a loan with a obligation to buy at the end of the season. That is to get around FFP, basically. So we have no chance of getting him back at the end of that loan. It's just that they couldn't bring him in because of FFP restrictions on Newcastle this season. And to people that don't support Chelsea, this might fly under the radar. They might not think it's too big a deal, but from my reaction that I've gauged from you lot giving me messages, commenting on my videos, you want to hear me talk about this, it is a big deal to Chelsea fans. So here to help me to discuss it, I've got Noor from the 11s podcast. His link to his YouTube channel will be linked in the description to this video. Please head over there and give him a subscribe. And Noor, as a lifelong Chelsea fan, what is your first and initial reaction when you see that we are selling Lewis Hall to Newcastle?
Fuming. It's made our transfer window drop down a few pegs.
It has put a bit of a stain on things, hasn't it?
With a lot of good ones that have gone, that we're all quite happy about, it's one that no one can really understand why. He's better than Cucurella. A lot better than Cucurella. And he reminds me a lot of Chile. His first touch with his left foot is always forward. He runs in behind. He wants to score goals. Bad business.
So Lewis Hall, like a couple of other youngsters at the moment, he obviously broke into the team during last season when, let's be honest, we had a really, really bad season. And there was very, very few glimmers of hope and sort of room for optimism in that season. But the likes of Lewis Hall, Conor Chukwuemeka were players that I sort of looked at and I was like, okay, we're having a shit time, but there's a few little glimmers of hope here that are filling me with a little bit more confidence going forward. And after seeing what he had done in pre-season, I was so eager to see him get runs in the first team. As you say, we have got a bit of depth at that left-back position. You know, we saw Ian Maatsen play at left-back. He's a player that I'm really, really high on at the moment, but I also believe can play all over the pitch. Lewis Hall, another one. He can deputise at left-back. Actually, if you look at him in the academy, he always played as a central midfield player. When you look at the fact that we haven't got many left-footed central midfield players, he offers us another layer.
But we're packed there, though.
Yeah, we are.
At the moment.
But you know, we've seen him on the wing. You know, there was the performance away at Manchester United, yeah? And he looked really, really sharp. And every time I saw him, he looked really, really sharp, Lewis Hall. And he was a player that, you know, we'd had a taste for him. We wanted to see more of him, sort of thing. So do we speak for all Chelsea fans here when we say we're massively disheartened by this?
100%. I think he's a very good wing-back. I think in midfield, like I said, we're a bit too packed there. As a wing-back, like Ben Chilwell, and we've seen with Reece, these boys do pick up injuries. The Premier League is brutal. We need cover for that. I would always put Lewis Hall in front of Cucurella. How cheap he's going for, it's bad business for me.
I'll tell you who it's not bad business for, and that's Newcastle. And
brilliant business.
Despite the fact of the restraints they're under by FFP and whatnot. You look at Newcastle's business, yeah? A couple of the old Chelsea boys. Livramento, they've also brought in now as well. Yeah. Obviously, he's going to be deputy for Kieran Trippier. I can't see him getting in ahead of Trippier, but obviously, you've got the option to move Trippier over the other side. You know, Anthony Gordon, he didn't look great when they brought him in January last season, but now he's off to a flyer and looking great. Isak, I've heard people comparing him to Thierry Henry. I won't go that far, but he looks like a very good player. But in Lewis Hall, they have bought a gem there. Not only have they bought a really good player, they bought one for the future. And also, to touch on it, Lewis Hall's dad's a massive Newcastle fan. So you look at the connection that Newcastle have with Dan Burn after they bought him in. He was at Fulham, he was at Brighton, they've bought him in, and Dan Burn's a Geordie, yeah? Grew up a Newcastle fan. Lewis Hall's dad's a Newcastle fan, so their recruitment is like very shrewd. And we look at when foreign owners come in and sometimes we'll tarnish them with, oh, they don't understand the club. These Newcastle owners look like they understand the club, mate, don't they? Like,
and it's not a bad move for Lewis Hall.
It's a brilliant...
I don't think he's grumbling at it too bad.
He's playing Champions League football.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable project that they're going to fund a lot of money to, and they're going to build a team. They're not going to buy a team. That's the best thing about Newcastle. They haven't just bought a team. They've still got that structure. They've still got the Joe Lintons, the Joe Willocks. They got good players that will become the spine of that team, and they're just making the right signings. Tunanali, like Isaac, I think he's a great player. Yeah. I think he's 20 goals plus. Honestly. He's put Callum Wilson out the team.
Everything they touch turns to gold at the minute, Newcastle, in terms of their business they're doing. Does he start for Newcastle, Lewis Hall?
So for me, I'm thinking, where would you put him? Was he taking Dan Burns' space? I don't think so. I think Dan Burns is a pretty solid player.
But if they want a different dynamic, Dan Burns solid at what he does.
Yeah.
But you could maybe look at when Ben White moved over to right back, and you could go, do you know what? Yeah. Considering he's out of position, he actually gives you an attacking threat. Yeah. Dan Burn don't give you an attacking threat. No. You know what I mean? And Lewis Hall definitely would. Yeah. Even potentially, you never know. They play a 4 at the back at the minute. They might have a change of formation, start with wing backs, you know? They might put Kieran Trippier as a right-sided centre-back, move Dan Burn over there or whatever. You just never know, really. Going from a Chelsea perspective, there's been a lot of harsh words in my comment sections and my inbox towards the owners about this. And there's two ways of looking at it. You could say that the owners are a little bit out of touch with the fans because we don't want the likes of Lewis Hall to move. We're going to touch on Ian Maatsen, Conor Gallagher, Trevor Chalobah even. And these are players that, because they've got that affiliation with the club, you know, we believe that, okay, it's brilliant bringing these players in, but we need people that understand the club, the culture, what it takes to be a Chelsea player. And we don't want those players to be moved on. However, I do sort of play devil's advocate there for a second and go, you can't have it all your own way, you know what I mean? Because we're more than happy to celebrate Todd Bowley, you know, splashing the cash and whipping out his checkbook when it comes to whacking down 100 million on the table for Caicedo. But all of a sudden, Lewis Hall goes out and we're outraged, you know? So we've got to have a medium between this, no?
If you really deep it, look at who we have let go before.
Yeah.
Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. Lewis Hall is not going to be, I'm sorry, not going to be a patch on what them two have done in the game. So we will get over it. But we can agree it's not good business, not from where we are right now, what he can offer us. A Champions League team ain't going to want to buy a player like that for no reason. They see what we see.
But then do you know what it is, Like, it's all in perspective to how we go on to do. Because I think, like, if we go on to have a really successful season, we get top 4 finish in a domestic cup. Are we at the end of the season going, but we let Lewis Hall go? No, you know what I mean? We're not going to be doing that. We're realistically not going to be doing that. You look at the way that Roman Abramovich run the club, and obviously, look, he didn't really invest in players to sell them on and whatnot. And now we're looking at the fact we've spent a lot of money. FFP does come into play, and when you move on academy graduates, you've paid their wages, but apart from that, it's 100% profit, isn't it? So from a business standpoint, I understand it. It doesn't mean I've got to be all right with it, but I understand where it comes from. Will they come back to bite us in the arse? Maybe, but who's the most famous example? Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. Can I ask you a question? I'm not trying to insinuate your answer is going to be the same mine. Do you care that we sold them?
No.
I don't care. No. I don't care. They're not Chelsea players no more. I don't actually care that we sold them. I'm not saying I feel like that about Lewis Hall. I'll put it on record as saying that. But like Kevin De Bruyne, we moved him on. He's won multiple Premier League titles. Man City would have won them titles either way. I'm telling you, with or without Kevin De Bruyne, they would have won them titles because of the infrastructure at the club and the way that club went.
We was fuming at the time. We're like, now.
Yeah, I didn't want Kevin De Bruyne to go. I was high on Kevin De Bruyne. Mo Salah, I won't try.
Mo Salah to go.
Yeah,
I was fed up with Mo Salah.
Mo Salah was a Hakim Ziyech for me. I didn't really 100%. Care. But look, when you say, will it come back to bite us in the arse, if Lewis Hall, being a success at Newcastle, classes as biting us in the arse, then okay, maybe it will come back to bite us in the arse. But then you're assuming that he's a success at Newcastle and Chelsea are shit. I think like you look at it as well, like we're not scraping the barrel, are we? We have got a tremendous depth of talent in our squad. And because of that, I'm sort of looking at it and I'm like, look, I'm really sad to see him go. I'd be sad to see a lot of them go. But at the same time, if we do well, we don't know. There are other players, however, that I'm hearing of moves for, like Ian Maatsen. Obviously, Conor Gallagher's been heavily rumoured. And Trevor Chalobah. I think the most likely one is definitely Trevor Chalobah. I'm going to be honest, I also think Conor Gallagher moves on. How would you feel about those two moves, Trevor Chalobah and Conor Gallagher, if they did happen this summer?
I think Trevor Chalobah is more of a meh to Conor Gallagher, just through what I've seen through pre-season and the Liverpool game. And I like his attitude, Conor Gallagher. I think he's a good midfielder. Chalobah, on the other hand, he's been good to us through this tough period. I'm not going to lie. he's not good enough to be playing for a top 4 team, in my opinion.
What's his cap then, Trevor Chalobah? I mean, you're getting Spurs' team, wouldn't you?
100%.
All right, let's say, for example, Conor is out injured. So you've got Joel Matip, a few of them. Would he get into Liverpool's backline alongside Virgil van Dijk?
Yeah.
You think he would?
I do. I like Trevor Chalobah. I think he does a good job. But for me, I don't think when you're playing against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final, you wouldn't want to start Trevor Chalobah.
Yeah.
And that's, as a Chelsea fan, that's what I look for. I look for the big games, the games that you need to win. Because do not get it twisted. We're back in the Champions League next year. 100%. I'll put anything I have that we will make top 4. I think we battered Liverpool. I think we've made unbelievable signings. For next year, we're in the Champions League and we want to progress and we want to do it in the big games. I think we need to be stronger in that position. Not an insult on Trevor Chalobah. Not at all. It's just maybe my expectations are quite high.
So with the Lewis Hall move, right, one of the speculations within that contract that we've been privy to is the fact that if Newcastle sell him on, we got a sell-on fee, yeah? So, say Newcastle in a couple of years decide to part companies of Lewis Hall, they sell him on for 50 million or something, Chelsea will get a certain percentage of that. With the Trevor Chalobah move, I think that's very unlikely. I think it'd just be a straight deal. With the Conor Gallagher move, if he was to go, would you rather have a sell-on fee that if they sell him on whatever club he goes to, let's say Conor Gallagher goes to West Ham, they sell him on, he does really well, starts scoring goals like I believe he can, he gets sold on. Would you rather get a fee or would you rather have first refusal on a buyback?
First refusal.
All day long. All day long.
Because then you get to make amend if you make a mistake.
And I have no idea how these contracts work, but surely that's an easier one to put into the contract, because if you've got first refusal, that only comes into activation if they're planning on selling him. So if they're planning on selling him, why do they care where he goes to, whether he comes back to us or whatever? So that's something there.
And listen, the teams like West Ham, Palace, Fulham, whoever it is that are interested in him, will sign that contract all day long.
But then here's the thing.
Because they keep him happy, he doesn't go, and they've got a good player.
But then here's the thing with Conor Gallagher, yeah? If Romeo Lavia comes in and does what we believe he can, if Caicedo comes in, does what we believe he can, Enzo Fernandez carries on consistently playing well all season, and then the likes of Ugachukwu are really good players to have in the squad, and Andre Santos, does Conor Gallagher get near that first team? Especially those 3 players I just named there. If Romeo Lavia's fit and firing, if Caicedo is and Enzo Fernandez is, does Conor Gallagher get near that first team?
I think he might get near it, but I think he's the type of player that won't have him sitting on the bench. I think he'll just kick off a fuss and go, if I'm not playing regularly, I'll rather go, because he's a battler. Conor Gallagher likes to play.
Can I give you the one I worry about here? Ian Maatsen. Ian Maatsen's a talent, man. He's special. He's a very special player. And we're hearing rumours now that potentially he could be on his way out as well. I know Burnley had a £20 million bid rejected.
I wouldn't sell him. If you're gonna loan him, I could understand.
Mate, I'd be cool with a loan.
Yeah,
I'd be happy with a loan.
Sell him.
Look, we've just put Cassidy out on loan, yeah? He's gone to Leicester. I believe that they're going to get promoted. I believe he'll start most games for them. I'm happy with it. I'm cool with it, We've put Angelo, the young kid, out on loan and whatever. Yeah. I don't feel like we need to be selling an Ian Maatsen. And when you look at it, straight away now, you go, okay, we've just sold Lewis Hall, who, although I've said that, he can play other areas on the pitch, all chances are that we'll see him where we've seen him, which is at left back, yeah? Cucurella's dog shit. And what I believe is we've seen Ian Maatsen at left back. He's massively versatile. He can play across that front line.
20 million. If you really want to get 20 million, sell Cucurella and take the hit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because why else would you be selling Maatsen? So say let's go on FFP and it's to free up some money.
It's an absolute travesty if we sold Ian Maatsen and keep Mark Cucurella at the club. Yeah. So to cap it off, what do you think that our general feeling that we hold should be around the Lewis Hall transfer and around the potential sales of some of these homegrown players? Do you think that we should just be thinking, look, what sort of goes around comes around. They're putting money into the club and whatnot. And unfortunately, as much as we don't want it, and we're always going to have a massive affiliation towards players that have come through the academy because we do feel like they're one of our own. They're players that we sing about in the stands and could one day go on to become captains of the club. Do you think that we need to think, okay, let's just remember that at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, football is a business.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things need to be done to balance the books. Or do you think that, no, selling off the DNA of the club is something that could come back to bite us in the arse?
I'm just thinking, don't make too many mistakes that will bite you in the arse. Not too many. Lewis Hall is a touchy subject where you're like, okay, don't make too many of them, where you're shipping out too many good, young, talented players that the likes of Burnley think, bloody hell, we've just got a 50 million asset on our hands for 20 million or a 60 million asset for 20 million. Lewis Hall, he's still young. He could go for 65 million like Ben Chilwell, 70 million. Easy. So you got to remember that you're giving these clubs a lot of opportunities to make big profits when we can just loan them, keep them on the radar. Go and be successful at Newcastle for a year and do well in the Champions League and play regularly. Then we've got a 45, 50, 60 million player on our hands. So it's don't make too many mistakes. And the problem I think that Todd has is his back's against the wall with this FFP. I think we tried to do too much.
It's that first season coming back to bite us in the arse before he had employed people that have been able to talk him through how these transfers work so much. Because this season, I really rate our transfer business, but it's just the season before, you know, bringing in the likes of Chalobah and players like that, it wasn't a good thing. Also, just to sort of caveat what you were just saying there, let's say, for example, you're not impressed by the sales of Lewis Hall and potential sales of these players. What about, and we'll never know this, but what about if Pochettino has said they can go, they're not in my plans? Then would you be like, okay, cool, I might not agree with it, but you're the man, you know better than me.
If Poch has told them, I don't want them, then he sees something that we don't see. So I trust Poch. I think Poch I said this before. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, I've seen one game. No, I said Poch is a very good manager. He has proven himself with young players. So I'd be sweet. If Poch comes out, or if you ever find out that Poch is the one that said, I don't want these players, then that's just the manager, mate. You can't change that.
And I would be exactly the same, but you know what concerns me? We're hearing a lot about the Conor Gallagher move. Who's Poch started more or less every game, including pre-season that he's played.
I don't think Gallagher will go, I'll be honest with you. I don't think he'll go. I think from that performance against Liverpool, I think he's turned a lot of heads.
Yeah. So, people, there's our thoughts on it. And look, I know it's a bit of a hard one because ultimately we haven't really given you a decision on exactly how we feel and what we think about these transfers. But I suppose that's part of covering news as and when it comes in. We won't know until more things develop and these situations move on. But the best way I can get a gauge on how we're all feeling is by you lot letting me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on it? Are you gutted about the Lewis Hall transfer? Do you appreciate that with bringing new players in, these things might happen? Or do you think we're making big mistakes here? Let me know in the comments. If you like the video, please do me a favour and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty of content coming from me. We've just hit 40k on YouTube and we are only just ramping up. So let me know in the comments. And also, to show your appreciation for Noor coming by today, his channel, the 11s podcast, is linked in the description to this video. Head over there, drop him a subscribe so then you can see all of his content as well as mine, and we will see you all in the next video.